Hello, welcome to the AI editor guide for my game Cognitanks. We're going to start here in the shop page or the scene. The AI editor button is right here, but before we go, we want to make sure that we actually have a turret AI or a nav AI to edit. So in the shop, you can see there'll be options to buy them. There'll be a couple to start, and then I plan to add more as you progress through the campaign to kind of help you see what different strategies there might be. So make sure you have that. And then, so it'll be in the inventory. So we'll go to the AI editor, file name top left. There's a guide here that's written out, basically what I'm going to tell you right now. So let's start with the navigation. So each tank will have a navigation and a turret AI, and they'll operate simultaneously through each of their respective node trees. So as you can see, it kind of all originates out of this bubble. So that's where the AI starts, and then it will check the entire tree every zero point 0.1 seconds. That's what I have it set at currently. So if you take a look here, it'll check all the connected nodes from that starting one from top to bottom. So first it's going to check this one and check if that's true or not. And it'll check this one, and if that one's false, it'll check this one, and so on. If it is true, it'll travel down the line and get to an action, hopefully. You should have an action at the end of each of your condition chains. Conditions are yellow, actions are red for the most part. I'll explain that a little bit here in a second. So let's say we'll check the first one, if self. So it's checking the tank that it is on, and it says, is my HP less than 30? If that is true, it'll say, is there an enemy in my vision? And then if there is, it'll flee. So that's just, low HP, run away. So let's say HP is not less than 30, then it will check, we'll skip if self when it backtracks. So if it's wrong, or I mean if it's false, it'll backtrack. If self gets skipped because that is always true. Now we go to just regular if enemy. So in my vision cone, is there an enemy? It says if the range is less than 30, we'll flee. If the range is greater than 60, then we'll chase. If it is between those two, then that means these are false. And it'll go back here and it'll check the next one, which is an action. So then it'll stop moving. So basically we're keeping our distance and staying in range of our turret's ability to fire at it. All right, so then let's say the enemy is not there. We don't have an enemy. Then I have a comms node. This comms node is a special node, which is also always true if you use it. So how this works is all the tanks on your team will populate a ally target list that the tanks can access. So if a different tank on your team can see an enemy, then using comms allows this tank to also see that enemy, and then they can chase it in this situation. So if someone else, and it'll chase the closest one. So let's say you have two allies and they both see an enemy, well, it'll pick the closest one and go for that, unless you do a if range condition. However, using comms has drawbacks. If you use comms, the tank drives at half speed and the turret rotates at half speed. And then as well as, instead of 0.1 seconds, we will add an additional 0.1 seconds per alive teammate that will make it take longer to make decisions. So it's just slowing your tank down as if this is like being distracted listening to the radio or something was kind of the idea. A little bit of realism. All right, so let's say none of our teammates can see anybody. So then this comes back false. We'll skip comms because that one's always true. And we'll check the next one. That would be cycle 5. So cycle is also a special node. I'm just giving you all the special nodes because the other ones are kind of straightforward. You can enter a number. So say, well, enter 6 or something. It'll change that for you. If you click on the node, and that number is how long it will execute the action. So forward drives the tank forward for 6 seconds. It will then switch to the other action, which is rotate 90 degrees, and it'll stop at 90 even if it does that faster than 6 seconds. And then it'll switch back to forward, creating a patrol square. And then it'll just drive around, so you can kind of create patrols however you want. You can make a triangle instead of a square or something. All right. And then let's say we want to add something. You can drag from an output like that. Let's click away first for a second. So these are inputs on the left side, outputs on the right side. If you click on a line, it'll delete the line. If you click on a input button, it'll delete all the connected lines to that node. I do plan to add like a copy and paste and stuff, but I have not done that yet. All right, so then let's say we want to add something here. Let's say instead of cycling, we're just going to do wander. So that would be, so now this node gets skipped because wander will always be executed before we get to the cycle. So if that makes sense, we start up the top, check this node, check this node. Oh, this is an action. So I'm just going to execute that. I'll forget about this one. So that would be how that would work. But you can create different behavior using that. Let's take a look at turret files here. You can delete nodes. I don't want that one. All right, so there's the if enemy. There seems to be a bug here. It's supposed to show turret AI right here. I will fix that. But anyway, so it checks if enemy. This was the sniper. So let's say if range is less than 500, then we're going to fire at the target. Then there's lead target. And if you look down at the bottom left, it'll tell you, I'll give you an overview of what it does here. Oh, try that one. There we go. Using this under a fire node will force it to verify its aim before shooting. 0 will point right at the target, and the other numbers will predict enemy position. So it'll take the velocity of the tank and then point that many units ahead of it. So if you point one or two units, it's going to be pretty much right at it. 15 or 10 to 15 is kind of a little bit in front. I don't know if you really want to go further than that. I do plan to add an artillery, so maybe you'd use it higher lead values on that. But the bullet travels pretty quickly for a sniper. And then we also have comms in here, so we can check if enemies and stuff like that. Then we have a cycle node. So we'll say, let's change that to 5. And then you can do the turret itself will align relative to the tank body. So that would be a line left, and then a line front, a line right, and then a line front. That way you always are facing forward. So that's why you have front twice there. That's kind of the basics of it. You can enter the numbers I said. I thought it was working, but it's not at the moment. It's supposed to show you the tip when you hover over them as well, down here in the bottom left, but it's not doing that, so I'm still working on it, but that is the basics for this. Once you save it, it auto-saves. I'm sorry, you don't have to save it. It'll auto-save, and then you can assign it to a tank, like that. Tank 1, so this is the sniper, and then you click on your round and start the game, and it should do the AI behavior. So that is all I've got at the moment. So if you want to join the Discord to give me some feedback, or you can check it out on the itch.io page. I'm also on like a vibe coding list website or something. But there's the links to that, and I will have a link in the description as well. But thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day.